Hi everyone, welcome. I'm pleased to announce another speaker that I've got for Gamification Europe for you, David Wortley, who is going to be speaking on our Health and Wellness Day. I've met David quite a few times, but last time was in Kuala Lumpur. He just reminded me, actually, back in the heady days when we did traveling for conferences. Anyway, what I'd like to do is ask David to introduce himself, tell us a little bit about him, what he's working on generally, and his gamification pedigree, of which he has some.
Okay, thanks. Well, I'm David Wortley, and I have a number of different hats that I wear. I'm in the health sector as I'm Vice President of the International Society for Digital Medicine, which was set up in China in 2016. And I've been working with them to help establish a European chapter of ISDM. It's quite an honor, really, because I don't have a medical background, and I guess in some way it's associated with my involvement in the use of gamification for health, because I've written a number of papers about it, and maybe that's how they found out about me and got me involved with International Society for Digital Medicine. I also have my own little consultancy business, which is 360 and 360 immersive experiences. And a lot of that is to do with the use of 360-degree photography and video, and how you use those technologies to create virtual tours and other immersive experiences. And in that context, I'm a so-called Google Street View Trusted Pro. So I have over 23,000 panoramic images on Google Street View, and we're just coming up to 100 million images, which I find quite amazing. When I look at the most popular images, I wouldn't some of the images I wouldn't give the time, but there you are. Some people like to look at these things. So yeah, so that's a bit about me. Before I started my business, I had been the founding director of the Serious Games Institute at Coventry University, and so I was invited to set that up starting in 2006. So I spent the 5 years setting the Serious Games Institute up, and of course gamification, game psychology and games mechanics played a large role in that. But it was also a time when I got involved more in the use of immersive technologies as well. And as an example, we used to use Second Life as a platform, and we had our own virtual Serious Games Institute and our own virtual auditorium. So we used to run virtual conferences and events within that virtual platform. So I've been involved, I guess, in serious games and gamification for probably about 15 years. But I would argue, and I'm probably sure that you would agree with me, is that every human being uses gamification in their life almost from the time that they're born. They just don't realise it's gamification. I don't call it that.
How very true, sir. What you've just said about, especially around the technology, this is kind of why we've got you in as a speaker, isn't it? The games, gamification and technology, and where it's going with immersive tech. So can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be talking about?
Yeah, I'm going to be talking about the use of gamification for health and well-being. And I'm really going to describe my story, I guess, and reason why I've been involved in gamification before that. I decided to see what impact gamification could have on my own personal health. And I won't give the story away, but there were a series of events that happened in around about 2013, so about seven years ago. And these events were like a form of serendipity, really. They all came together almost at the same time, and every one of them was a little nudge towards thinking about I ought to do something about my own health, my weight particularly. So I've never really had any ill health in my life, so there wasn't a factor. That wasn't a factor in me deciding that I needed to do something about my health. But essentially, it to do with that I have been obese. I've been obese for a number of years, and although it hadn't affected my health, I could see that there was a potential for it to do some damage for me as I'm getting older. So I decided to explore the potential of gamification and technology for my own health. And so that's how the journey started. And the technology that I used at the time was a little wearable device called the Jawbone Up, with a mobile application that allowed me to track how much exercise I did, the calories that I ate, my nutrition, my sleep, all of those things. And so for me, that was a good example of a practical use of gamification, but gamification enabled by technology.
Yeah. And so what we're looking at is building upon that experience. And in your talk title, it's about how to make gamified healthcare affordable too, as well. So I'm quite looking forward to the practical side of it, I guess, seeing some of the examples that you can give us around making a difference with technology in our health.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the word affordable. Well, in my view, it's never been more affordable, really. All of the technology and the devices that you can use to manage your own personal health, most of them are, in fact, virtually all of them are consumer devices. It's only when you come to clinical conditions, people with chronic health conditions like COPD, diabetes, and some other medical conditions that require continuous monitoring, that you start to get a little more complicated and a little bit more expensive in terms of the tech you people themselves.
Great. So that's what we're looking forward to from you at this conference. Like me, you've been to a lot of conferences. What sort of what things have you experienced at past gamification-related conferences? What excites you about going to them?
Well, I get excited about meeting people and hearing people's stories. And I've found one of the things that's actually reassured me and encouraged me a lot. The number of conferences that I've been to, health-related, serious games for health conferences, long before I got involved in what you might call gamification, and that was to find that the talks that I'd given at some conferences had actually made a difference to people's lives. So I've had people come up to me and say, "Oh," and these are not people that I recognize or know well, but people have come up to me and say, "Oh, I have to say thank you for what you talked about in this conference at XY time." One example was a guy. He said, "I now play basketball for the first time in 5 years. I'm able to keep up with the kids. So it's given me a new lease of life," and that's happened quite a number of times. And I thought, you must find the same. There are many people around the world that you have met and you've come across and who've listened to your presentations, people that you wouldn't recognize if you saw them in the street, but you will have touched so many people's lives with what you've been able to share with them. And so I found that the most reassuring going to conferences is hearing other people's stories. So I couldn't point to a knockout presentation or something that I've seen at a particular event that comes to mind immediately. But generally, that's what I've got from a lot of the conferences I've been to. There's always something you can pick up, always something that you can learn from other people.
That's cool. And you've kind of set expectations nice and high there for your talk to make a difference in people's lives there. Now, my final question is, hopefully you've had a chance to look at the schedule and what speakers we've got at this one. Are there any you think that might make a difference?
Well, I think they all will. You know, you introduced me to Ben Wilkins. So I've had a conversation with him. I had a virtual meeting with him. And so I'm looking forward to hearing more about his story and how he uses gamification in the health context. And I think, for example, although there is some technology involved, the actual gamification principles that he's talking about are really not technology related. So I'm interested in any of your presenters who are using technology and those who are simply using gamification principles where technology is not part of the impact they have on people's lives.
Cool. You're a dream attendee. You're interested in everything. This is great.
Well, I am. You know, I'm 71 now, but I still have lots of things I want to do with my life, and I still believe you can learn something every day, and that's one of the things about the practices that I use now to manage my own health. And when I talk at your event, I'm not just going to be talking about a success story and how I managed to lose 21 kilos and make a big difference to my vital signs. I'm going to be talking about some of the failures as well, and why there were failures, and what to look for when you're trying to advise other people, motivate other people to make changes. I think you have to recognise that. I think I've heard this from you anyway. I think you have to recognise that everyone is an individual, and a single gamification strategy doesn't necessarily work for everybody. You have to look at the whole context of their situation, their lifestyle, their circumstances, what the barriers are and what the positive things are, and build on that.
Thank you. And thank you very much. And thanks for your time today, just having a quick chat about what we can look forward to. It's great. It's going to be great to have you at the conference.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, Pete, and thanks so much for the invitation. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope that the rest of the panelists and all of the delegates at least get something out of my story, at least get something out of it, and as much as I will get out of other people's stories. So thanks for the opportunity.
Perfect.